Hi there. Welcome to the Animal Intuitive channel. I am Ann Angela Webb, the Animal Intuitive, and today we're going to be talking about the fascinating world of feline genetics and how DNA testing can help us understand our furry companions better. I am actually going to be doing a comparison of a couple of tests that I did. Giovanna, who is often on the show, you can see her kind of in the background. There she is. I have two cats, and she is one of them that I sent in her information and got results for her. So we're going to be comparing Wisdom Panel and Basepaws. If you're new here, this is the Animal Intuitive channel, and we give animals a voice through animal communication lessons, acupressure, massage for animals, and generally talking about holistic pet care, but other kinds of pet care too. We have interviews with experts in the fields of animal care and advocacy as well. Although I have been a professional animal communicator for over 20 years, I'm also a licensed clinical social worker, and so our shows sometimes are also geared toward psychology, but a lot of that has to do with supporting the pet parent. So I just want to check into the chat. Hi, Melmac, good to see you here. And anybody who's watching, thank you so much for being here, even if you're not typing in the chat, but we love to hear you, say hello in the chat, or at least see your comments in the chat. So jump in. And if you have questions and I can answer them, I certainly will. I have to tell you that I had to do a little bit of research and reading up and diving in to better understand this topic. I actually had said in a previous episode that I was not going to do the cat testing. I had done dog testing in a previous video. I did a comparison of a couple of dog DNA tests. And from what I had seen, people were kind of like saying, there's no point in doing the cat testing. And I'm going to explain that in a second, why people say that. But then I decided, well, I really am interested in this. I want to see what the results are. And I was coming from the place of, have this kitty cat over here, Giovanna, and I pretty much just by looking at her had an idea of what kind, a breed that at least I knew she probably partly had. I'm going to talk more about that. So I figured this will be an interesting experiment because I can see if this breed shows up when we look at the results, and then it'll be even more interesting to compare these two, the Basepaws and the Wisdom Panel, which are kind of like the two that a lot of people are using. They're kind of one of the top two, or they are like the top two most purchased, I guess, DNA tests. So I could compare it and see if they both got what I was thinking that she had, and just, it would be a fun experiment and something to dive into. So yeah, thank you so much, Melmac. It's intriguing. And it was a little stressful trying to, because, just to mention, a disclaimer, I am not a veterinarian. As I mentioned, I work with animals, but I am not a vet. So it took some research and reading for me too. And this wasn't, an area that I know a ton about with DNA stuff. It's intriguing, but it's not something I'm going to claim to be a professional in. So if you want to really dive into that, you might want to go somewhere else. If you want to go deep, deep, deep into understanding genetics, we're not going to do that today. But we do have some interesting information for you. So I just want to thank everybody who's watching. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for being here too. Love to hear what people have gotten themselves. Let us know in the comments what your experiences are with these DNA testing kits. Also, please like, subscribe, share. It really helps the show. We are a growing channel, and we really need that kind of help. We do appreciate it here. For some reason, my information that I have is not playing, which is a bit of a problem because it tells me what to say to you. So my dear husband is here and is watching, and perhaps he can come out and figure out why this thing isn't working if he sees this. So I'm going to try to proceed even though I don't have the information that I like in a script format. Okay, so I'm going to first show you. You can kind of see Gia here. And I have another cat who you can't see. She's in the other room. But this is Gracie. So with Gracie, to me, she's a tortie, but a tortie is not really a breed. It's like the pattern of her coat collar. I didn't know what she was. I had no clue. So I decided to do a comparison with the two with Gia, and I also did Basepaws for Gracie, and I will say more about why that is. My husband's trying to come in and trying to help me with this. Seems like the batteries are maybe not working. So yeah, if you've done DNA on your fur family, please share your experience. We would like to hear that. Either, show us in the chat, or if you're watching later, mention it in the comments, please. I'm going to give you a peek at the Basepaws site first. I just decided to start with them, not for any particular reason, except that I figured B and Wisdom Panel is W. Okay, so this is the Basepaws site where you might go to purchase. Something that's nice about these two products is they do often have deals. I got it during the holidays, during Christmas season, so I got a bit of a discount. And eventually, I think I might have some links in this description for discounts. I did apply to be an affiliate for this show, and I am an affiliate. There is a link for Wisdom Panel. Basepaws hasn't finished the process, so you could use the links there if you want for Wisdom Panel if you decide after this you're interested. I just get a little tiny commission for that. How much? Eventually, maybe I'll get a discount code I'll add, so if you're watching this later. So the types of DNA tests they have are for cats. They have, the one I purchased is the Breed and Health Cat DNA test. Oh, sorry, yeah. No, I did the, I did both of these. I did the Breed and Health Cat DNA test, and then I separately on top of that purchased the oral health test. I wanted to do that because Gracie in particular has had issues with her teeth, and I have had our other cat who passed away a few years ago, Tierna. She had a lot of issues. Stomatitis, if you've heard of it, it's like tooth reabsorption. It's a real problem. Some cats end up getting all their teeth taken out. So I wanted to get ahead of the game and just see what it said. Gracie, we kind of knew that she had that history, but I was curious about seeing what it really said. It wasn't quite, because she hasn't been quite as extreme as Tierna. And I was actually interested because also I have pet insurance, and the pet insurance never will pay for having teeth removed because early on a veterinarian said that Gracie had stomatitis. So the insurance wouldn't pay for it. So I really wanted to see if that was true because her issues haven't been quite as bad. And I said, well, I can prove it to them if it turns out she doesn't have it. Well, you'll find out about that too, what happened there. Okay, you can purchase this extra thing that will tell you about the risks for oral diseases like periodontal disease, tooth resorption, which hopefully your pets don't have, and then bad breath. And teeth are important. They really do have a huge impact on human and animal health, so it's not a bad thing to know. They also have information in there, and you'll see. I'll show you what I got on that because they have information about what they're eating and stuff like that. So they also have in this kit trait markers, health markers. The one that I bought, they have breed group similarity and just kind of wellness info. So they do some testing against certain markers to see what issues they could be more prone to have. And it doesn't mean that they will have those issues. It doesn't mean they won't, but it just gives you a better idea. And then they have this third category, whole genome sequencing. This is not, I didn't do this one. It's much more in-depth. It's the most in-depth, comprehensive method for analyzing entire genomes. That also has risk scores for health issues, recommendations. They do breed profile, general health. And it just gets, and as you can see though, it is quite a much more than the other products. It's almost $500 for that. Okay, and then of course they do dog stuff, but we're talking about cat. I did a Wisdom Panel comparison for my dogs. I did not do Basepaws. I did Wisdom and Embark for the dogs. All right, so Wisdom Panel. So they have the Wisdom Panel complete. Right now it's $129.99, and they screen for 70 breeds and populations, 45 health tests, 25 trait tests. Basepaws screens for, well, I thought I had it right here, but I don't see it. So we will come back to that, how many they screen for. It's, I want to say 21. So just to let you know, the way that you do this, you have to get a sample from your pets. It can be a little tricky depending on the animal. So Gracie was she wasn't too difficult to get her sample. You basically take this little swab that they send you and you roll it around in their mouth, and I think it's about 15 seconds. And when you're doing the oral health test with Basepaws, Wisdom Panel does not have that, but when you do this, you do it about 15 seconds and you get 2 of them. Because if you're doing the health and the breed and then separate the oral, they send you 2 for that. So Gracie, we didn't have too difficult a time. Gia is a little bit more of a challenge sometimes. I think maybe we wrapped her in a towel to do that because she can get a little ornery if she doesn't like what's going on. Okay, so she's left the scene. That's a recommendation, though. If you have trouble doing this, you can wrap them in a towel, like sometimes you might do for trimming their nails, to help. It partly helps calm them, to kind of swaddle them like that and be in something sort of not too tight, but a little, comforting and pressure. But it also keeps them from being able to scratch and claw you. One of the other benefits, as we were going through this, I didn't notice on their home screen with Wisdom Panel, but they do have a nice feature where if there's any at-risk health findings, you get to talk to a vet for no added price with them. So that's nice. I did not see that yet with Basepaws. They also have a breeder test, Wisdom Panel. So if you're into breeding, you can go more in depth and get more information. And what else? My husband's still working on the clicker thingy. So I'm kind of looking at my screen, looking up and down. I apologize that I'm not looking at you guys. I'm trying to read from something on my screen instead of looking up. Okay, timeline. Wisdom Panel timeline. I registered. Registering their kit means you've taken that sample, you go online, you register it, you put it in the mail, usually that day. I registered the Wisdom Panel kit on 12/28/23, December 28/23, and the results were in on January 18th, 24. So that was pretty quick. It was faster than I thought it was going to be. And they do talk about on their site that they feel like they have a human grade lab, like they do things really quick. So they put that out there as a plus to them. Basepaws, I did the same day, and then it took till February 14th, 24 to get that back. So it took a little bit longer to get it took 6 weeks, I guess, to get the Basepaws results. So if you're in a rush, I guess, that's an advantage of Wisdom, is it went a little faster. And you can also check the progress of these on their website. They're good, both really good about letting you know the progress, that they're processing it. Yeah, they were quick, the Wisdom Panel people. And also a recommendation is when you're trying to get their sample. This is a show about animal communication, so take advantage of my free class. There's a QR code right there, and you can also go to that website, intuitivetouchanimalcare.com, and take my free 90-minute Unlock the Secrets of Animal Communication, and that can help you to communicate with your pet and talk about the intention of what you're doing and help relieve some of the stress for them in doing that. So the big question, just before we get into the results, is how accurate are these tests? A lot of people question that. And rightly so. I did reach out to Wisdom Panel. I got what was sort of a generic response. I think they probably send out to a lot of people who are looking for information, especially for media type things. But it was one of their veterinarians and genetics manager who mentioned that their health results are over 99.9% accurate. So we're talking about, hey, Gia, come here. You can come up. That's referring to their health results. And they attribute that to a highly accurate microarray platform and quality control guidelines similar to those used by human genetics testing companies. So that's nice to know. But when we get into genetics with cats and DNA information, they have a nice explanation on the website that I encourage you, if you really want to go any deeper, I will give you my summary of it, my understanding of it. But if you want to go and find out a little bit more, go to Basepaws DNA Explained. They have a page right on there, and they get into pretty deep detail about it. Depending on how much you want to know, it gets a little bit confusing. I had to do quite a bit of research to understand this. It was a little overwhelming, and my husband had to kind of get in there and read it too, and he's better at that kind of thing than me. I do anatomy and physiology with my acupressure and massage training in animals, but we didn't get heavy into DNA, so let me try to explain in layman's terms and from what I understand. It's not as straightforward with dogs. Unlike dogs, whose breeds have been selectively bred for thousands of years, cats haven't been bred nearly as long, and this means their genetic, it's only about 200 years that cats have intentionally being bred, I mean, so humans getting in there and wanting to breed the cats to be a certain way, a certain look. That means the cat's genetic makeup is much more diverse, which makes it trickier to pinpoint their exact breed. And so these companies are trying to gather more and more information as the companies get older, as they grow. They're gathering more information about breeds, and it will get more accurate. The dog testing DNA sites had the same thing when they started. They weren't as accurate, and now they've gotten much more accurate. They use the DNA testing to compare your cat's genetic code to a database of known breeds. But it's important to remember these results aren't perfect. Due to that shorter history of cat breeding, identifying specific ancestry can be challenging. So cats, some things to keep in mind. Cats interbred for thousands of years, and so they just got all mixed up, and we weren't involved trying to narrow them down into specific breeds. So there was no specific breed lining until the early 19th century. And the thing is, the cats were bred for aesthetics. So they were looking for certain physical characteristics that they wanted cats to have, like, for instance, long hair or the folded ears, or I don't know, no tail, or smaller size, bigger size, a little different than dogs, which started 30,000 years ago. There's evidence of dog breeding for things like guarding, hunting. So it wasn't all about aesthetics for dogs. So when it comes to cats, what it really boils down to is that they were looking for traits, and those traits could be shared by a lot of different cat quote unquote breeds. So they haven't really been able to say this is, for instance, a Scottish fold breed. They don't exactly have all the markers that make up a Scottish fold. It's more like these are the traits that we would see in a Scottish fold, and therefore we would call the cat a Scottish fold and say they have this much percentage of it, but it's not an exact science, and even a high percentage match to a breed doesn't guarantee that your cat has a recent ancestor of that breed. It just means they share these genetic markers. They're basically mutts, most cats, the vast majority of them, even those with the purebred characteristics, have mixed ancestry. And this is because they've been reproducing independently for so long rather than being selectively bred. So the DNA testing is looking for similarities, not ancestry. So the test can only identify matching DNA segments, not how those segments were inherited, which means they can't definitively say if your cat is a specific ancestor from a particular breed. As the companies grow, more information will become more specific. So what it can tell you, though, genetic predisposition. So while the breed might not be exact, the testing can reveal predispositions to certain health conditions, which is nice to know. You can be more proactive if you have that information. And the test can identify genes that are associated with specific physical traits, like fur length, color, eye color. Maybe if you want to do breeding, that could be helpful to you. And give some insights into the cat's behavior. Some tests even explore genetic links to those behaviors through this field. Those fields in early stages. So just keeping all of this in mind, it's still fun, I think. All right, moving along. Basepaws has 21 breeds in their database that they can compare to. So that's a big difference. Wisdom Panel really makes a big deal of the fact that they have 70 plus cat breeds that they can compare your cat to. versus Basepaws, which has 21 breeds. I'm sure that Basepaws is going to grow. And when Basepaws sends you your information about your cats, and I'll show you this, they'll show you detailed information about all those breeds, not just what your cat has. So, all right, Basepaws also checks for 43 genetic feline disease traits. Wisdom Panel 49. So Wisdom Panel a little bit more. Doesn't mean that Basepaws won't get caught up. And trait analysis. Basepaws can check for 25 traits. So that would be visual, things you would see, like long hair, short tail, long tail. Wisdom Panel 28 traits that they can test for. They both test for blood type, so that's nice to know. Can be good when you're like in a transfusion or emergency situation, although I'm sure the vet would be testing that, but it's nice to know. And as mentioned, Basepaws can test for the oral issues if you pay for extra. Okay, so now I'm going to get into some of the site and show you some things here. Yeah, so this page gets in deep. If you want to go research a little bit more about what it can tell you, you can go to Basepaws and look at their DNA explanation page. So this is going to page here for Giovanna and Gracie. Okay, just to show you like how these sites look, get a feel if you like the way they look. Basepaws does a little bit more like a report style. They kind of give you an overview of what categories you can go into on the site, but then if you want to look into it, you need to go look at the report. So, and just to show you, because this matters. This is Gia up close. So you can kind of see a little bit better what she looks like. When I started this, I thought she was a Norwegian forest cat. I was a little bit unsure if she was Maine Coon or Norwegian Forest, or of course the potential was there that she was both. But to me, when I really did a lot of comparing, like the weirdo that I am, watching YouTube videos showing the two cats and the differences and she looked more, and kind of just my experience having had Maine Coon mixes, I think now, and being around some purebreds in the work that I've done, she to me was more Norwegian forest cat. Well, let's go see Gia's results. I'll show you the comparison that came out. So Basepaws is over here on the left and Wisdom Panel's on the right. So Basepaws, so Western is grouping with diverse geographic origins, spanning Turkey, Russia, Europe, and the Americas. And they have her listed as a 31.4% broadly Western, so it's like anything. 25.52% Maine Coon. Okay, so and then 3.68% Norwegian Forest Cat. So I was, oh, okay, she's a lot more Maine Coon coming out than Forest Cat. She's got a little Siberian in here, 6.3% it's showing, and some Russian blue, 1.54%. And then Wisdom Panel, when we're talking about these two, the Maine Coon and the Norwegian, had her at 17% Norwegian, 14% Maine Coon. So they were almost the same, slightly more Norwegian, and then the big pot of American domestic cat, 5% European shorthair, 2% European domestic, and then also Persian category, 10% Scottish fold and 1% British shorthair. The Persian breed on this side, I don't know why, and I wasn't able to figure this out before I did this show. I'm sorry, I should have looked into it. I kind of forgot about it. Okay, thank you, Melmac. And there is a library, as Melmac has put in the chat, is in the description. I have a library of shows on here. This is a 50-second episode, so we have a lot of different categories of shows. What those are called, it's just escaping my mind. But you'll see in there where you can look for classes and different things and different categories. I don't know why they put the Scottish fold and the British short hair in the Persian. I'm not really clear on that, but that's what they fall into. Same thing with basepaws. They both call it that. And then she had nothing Eastern, so she didn't have anything like Oriental, Peterbald, Burmese, Burman, Thai. And then an exotic breed, which is that contains the Egyptian Mau and hybrid cats, which are a result of crossing domestic cats with certain wild cats. These cats often have a high degree of genetic separation from other breeds. She had 2.27%. Maybe that's why she's kind of feisty. I don't know. She's a feisty girl. And then we have this domestic polycat category, 25.12%. Domestic polycat is the remarkable result of many generations of mixed breeding, the opposite of selective breeding between different types of cats, which is why the ancestry and origin of these kitties can be very difficult to determine. So back to what we were talking about earlier. So I think that what this does tell us, that is nice to know, is that at least both of these, there's something there with picking up that whatever it means to be a Norwegian forest cat and whatever it means to be a Maine Coon, both of these picked it up. So that, it gives some legitimacy. And also the Scottish fold, was it? Actually, there was no Scottish fold in the Basepaws one. Okay. There was 1% British short hair in both, a little bit of that in both of them. Okay. So I can't use my clicker, so I'm going to be going up and down this whole time because he's got to pair it with the iPad, and I guess that could be an issue. I don't know if he can come out and do that. But luckily, I do have my lovely husband who's willing to help. Thank God he's home today, since it's Saturday afternoon. So this is Giovanna's report. And, okay, so oral health. This is her Basepaws report. She has a she has a high risk of periodontal disease based on what they're seeing in her mouth right now. We have to be on top of that, and we actually brought some new cat toothpaste and a new toothbrush to be a little bit more proactive than we had been being with her teeth. Her risk, however, of tooth reabsorption was low, and then risk of bad breath is high. So she was clear, though, which was nice to see, of 43 health markers. All of the health markers that they compared her to, she was clear of. So that's a nice thing to see. It's reassuring. It doesn't mean she wouldn't get any of these things, but just to show you, here's Basepaws giving you another history of the breeding. But to show you the breed analysis data, they go a little, that's what I showed you before. And then we're going to try to put me back on. My husband is trying to get me back on here. You can click on any of these and learn more. So, so if I wanted to see Maine Coon, I would click on this Western. Takes me down to an in-depth. Okay, there we go. I got myself back. Okay. Thank you, husband. My husband's very camera shy, but I wish he would come on. He's going to say hello, but he won't. This is right here. This is showing. Maine Coon gives you very deep, in-depth information about the cat's history as well, as much as it can. It's still showing a little bit there, but gives you their average weight, gives you their history, genetic predisposition, and health. So, like, for instance, this breed is known to be at a higher risk for developing hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Most common feline heart condition is associated with several genetic mutations. So that's something that's good to know if you have a Maine Coon. And it talks about them being a water-loving cat, talks about personality a little bit, adored for its playful nature, dog-like loyalty, and they can be very vocal, expressing a wide range of complex sounds. So these cats are generally obedient and possess above average intelligence, which makes them easy to train. It's not uncommon to see a Maine Coon walking on a leash. And so they give you all the... Okay, so this is what happens when I get to come in and edit and add things to a video later on. I told you my husband does not like to be on video, but this is a picture of him with Gia. He has come back from work and she has greeted him, which is something they mentioned. They're kind of dog-like. But look how big she is. She's huge. And it just goes to show there is some quality in there of this Maine Coon and the also Norwegian forest cat being large cats. She seems to have those qualities. You can kind of see it in her paws in this picture.
They're bigger than that. Even the way they look in that picture isn't quite showing off her paw size. But then also it mentions that they like water. Maine Coons like water. And that is her rolling around in the tub. She enjoys batting at water, being in the tub. If you turn the water on for the shower, anything like that, she comes running. So some of those qualities for Maine Coon, she does fit the bill. And I didn't mention that in the video. Ouch. And so they give you all the cats that they have. So she was an Abyssinian, but you can learn about those breeds too if you're interested. They give you quite a bit of information. Then to want to show you her genetic health and trait markers. Kitty Genetics gets into a little bit of a description of that, and they give you a rating system. So it gives you these stars, like 5 stars means consistent results reported across multiple scientific studies. More than 100 cats across studies confirmed to have the expected correlation between the genetic marker and the physical presentation. Multiple specific scientific tools used to confirm the mechanism behind the mutation. No contradictory results reported in literature. And then, as you see, the stars get lower and lower. So that's less reliability about the preliminary results to be interpreted with extreme caution based on a scientific study that either focuses on a single cat or on a few studies that report contradictory results. So that's, it's not you can't really be too sure they have those traits are reliable. So they show you clear, this is a negative, 0 copies for this marker, carrier, at risk, at high risk. So, and they have different color codes, so it's easy to kind of go through and see, oh, clear, 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 yay, 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 yay. But if, you saw a red one, then there's concern. So I think that's pretty clear, easy to read. They make it pretty clear. And then they do give you more information about that mutation and also breeds that tend to have it more than others. Okay. Giovanna's oral health report. They tell you a little bit about that, and then you can see they show you on this chart the range, high to low, of where your cat might be. So this tells us we need to be a little bit more proactive at her risk for periodontal disease. But again, happy to see she's low on that tooth resorption. So this was interesting, kind of funny, because they tell you what they find in the cat's mouth, what your cat eats, and one of the things that came up was dog, which I'm assuming is because she, I don't know, eats their fur. We buy them a pretty high quality food. I don't think there's dog in it. So, I think it's just because she comes across them. She doesn't really lick them. She tries actually with one of them who doesn't like it. But so a little bit more about periodontal disease, bad breath, Okay. You can join a Facebook group. Okay, so that is her report. That's Basepaws. Video, I forgot to mention it in the live stream, that Gracie's oral health report was accurate. Unfortunately, it is pointing out that she does have some issues that I had been told when she was a kitten, that she had stomatitis. And because it wasn't as bad as our other cat, we were kind of hoping she really didn't have it. But she has had to have some teeth removed, and insurance won't pay for it because of that early diagnosis. Well, as we see here, she has this she's in a pretty high percentile for tooth resorption. So that's what that is about. She's got some dental stuff, and it's good to know. And also, I didn't go over her, and also I did not do a wisdom panel for Gracie, so I forgot to do the comparison or to talk about her results with Basepaws. But, basically, if you're interested, she's mostly this blend, Western 69.47. You can see again how they do this blending. Really, she's got this Maine Coon seems to come up, I think, for a lot of cats. And then Eastern 4.23%. She has that Eastern. The Peterbald is kind of an interesting cat if you're ever interested in looking that one up. That was a new one to me. And then the British short hair and a little Himalayan. So exotic, 3.21%, broadly exotic. So there wasn't a ton of specific information there for her, but it's always nice to know. Then we go over to Wisdom Panel. Okay, so Wisdom Panel is showing more information right on their screen. They do have a kind of a raw data report that you can download. It's a little bit, I'll show it to you at the end. It's not as kind of interesting as that one. Like the way that the Basepaws does it is more like all that information's in that report, whereas Wisdom Paws has all their information here on the screen. They do have it summarized in this other report, but it's just not as like fancy in the report. So they show her breeds that they supposedly she has, perhaps. So I'm coming back in here and showing you some things I forgot to show you in the original video. That's why you're not seeing me on camera. I just want to get this kind of out here and done so I can get the video uploaded again. So real quick, this is important. This is what I showed you with Gia's overall summary of her ancestry. But if you go further into this, they do expand here on the Wisdom Panel website on the different breeds, just like they do with Basepaws. If you click on these, you're going to see much more detail, and I didn't show you that in the original video, so I wanted to add that in. There's much more here. It goes more into the traits, it goes into size, weight, coat coloring, you know, many different things, temperament, history, and also care, grooming, health of these cats, genetic health conditions depending on these breeds. So I wanted to make sure I didn't overlook that. And there's even more resources down here with some links, some articles you can read. And then also I did neglect as well to show you, and this is really important, her family tree. This is something that Wisdom Panel does that we don't see in the other, in Basepaws. So this is a family tree that shows, look, you've got her parents, American domestic cat with Norwegian forest cat on one side, and then we have Scottish fold mix and Maine Coon on the other side. And then, of course, that breaks down to the grandparents, and we go further and further out. And we see more detailed information through this family tree. We also get into some genetic diversity information. Genetic diversity. And they have a little blurb here about why that's important. Generally speaking, cats with a higher percentage of heterozygosity will have a lower risk of genetic disorders and other complications associated with their breed background. She was at the higher end of that diversity in the typical range of cats, higher end of it. So she's good there. She's not inbred. Yay. And then you can click on these and get full results. And she was clear here too. So both of these studies matched that she was clear of all these things. Both said that she was blood type A. So again, this is nice to see that they're getting the same information. And if you click on their health test, it takes you over here, it goes more in detail. You can read more about those, that she didn't have any of those, but if you wanted to, you know, you could just kind of click on it, read more about this acute intermittent porphyria variant 1, and it goes into details about what that is. Okay. And it gives some breeders extra information about that. And articles too. Credit to our scientific colleagues. Traits. So 28 genetic traits done on her. And, oh, you've read brewing green tea and adding to food or water helps with teeth, both felines and canines. I've heard that too. So, yeah, that's definitely... I'm also, it's good to, you know, find approved home remedies. We have a nice book by someone we had on the show recently. It's right behind me over here, Dr. Satish. She wrote a book about holistic care you can do with your pet at home, because you do have to be really careful when you're looking for non-toxic things online for your pets to make sure that they really are non-toxic. For instance, when you go to look for toothpaste for your dog or your cat, the toothpaste for your dog is not always something you want to give to your cat. So this is her traits. So this is stuff that's observable, and whether this is interesting to a person or not, it's kind of interesting because, like, for instance, she had, I mean, really, that looks just like a partial and full white. So that's her, definitely. She's gray and white. It tells you more about that. There's even, like, they talk about the full white variant is associated with hearing impairment. That's also true with dogs. Cats with 2 copies of the full white variant are usually deaf or have partial hearing impairment. About 40% of cats with only 1 copy of the full white variant and 1 copy of the normal variant have hearing difficulties or are deaf. And it goes on and on. Hi. Are you going to come say hi? This is talking about you. Come on over. Gia. Definitely goes into deep detail about that, about those traits. And it is interesting to see that she's a long-haired cat. And it says long coat possible, short coat likely. So, but she is long hair. Tail length, extra toes, which she doesn't have, but she doesn't have that trait. If you're into breeding, I guess this stuff would be more interesting because you could know that there's recessive genes that could come out in the litter. Depends on how deep you want to get into knowing about these recessive genes and things you might not know your cat has versus what you're seeing. So that is the Wisdom Panel. Both of these do research. The Basepaws company, she's trying to go out. She's like in hunter mode right now. She's trying to go after everything, like the screen. Basepaws gets a little bit more into giving you an opportunity to participate in some of these studies. So, for instance, here's an example. You might want to enroll your cat in the feline atopic dermatitis study. And so you could help contribute to helping other cats and helping contribute to research. Feline chronic kidney disease. They have a few different studies that you can enroll your cat in. The research for Wisdom Panel, it didn't seem quite as like you are going to be able to enroll your cat in a certain study, but they talk about how they've been involved for a while in genetic studies, breed detection studies, and that they're continuing to do that. Yes, see here they talk about not your average lab, human grade lab. They're not messing around. And they work with Neogen Genomics. They're genetic pros with more pet DNA experience than any other lab, it says. Receiving more than 1.5 million samples every year. And then you can go to the white paper on that, dig into the details, and they talk about other scientists. So that's just a little information that's interesting. I want to talk about like where I landed with this. You know, honestly, both of these to me were, I can't exactly say that I felt like either one of them was better than the other. A little bit of it, I think, depends on how you prefer to look at information. The Wisdom Panel was a little bit, to me, more like, I don't know, fun looking. It was like visually a little bit more appealing because the information's in color on the screen. And here, right here, you can share this. Like that's a nice thing about this. You could share this with anybody. You could copy this link, and anybody that you share it with, if you open up your privacy and link settings to be able to share it with people who'd be interested, you can do that. So you could share it with your vet that way. Basepaws has a direct thing where you can share it with your vet. Like it automatically opens up a window and you can share it with your vet. So that's nice. So there's ways for both of these to be able to share the information. But just trying to show you this other way of looking at this information, because you could download this paper and print it. Download technical report, they call it. So it's a little bit drier looking than I would say the Basepaws one. It's a little bit more like raw looking. See, not as colorful. So their color, I think it's almost like the way these companies did this to, I don't know, maybe they had to do things slightly different than each other for whatever reason. I don't know. But it seems like Wisdom Panel put all their information right on their website, the more colorful, visual, kind of more intriguing information right up on the website, versus Basepaws, who did it within that document that I showed you, that I went through. That's kind of my interpretation of it, the way I see it. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for. And then also a big factor would be how important it is to you to have that oral health report. You could technically, I guess, buy the oral, if you wanted to do Wisdom Panel, you could buy the Basepaws oral health report and just do that with Basepaws and buy the Wisdom Panel. That is kind of where I landed with, like, I can't say that one is better than the other. I would say that they both have their pros and cons, but I think, one thing that obviously would stand out is the comparing the number of breeds that Wisdom Panel has for you to compare, to look at 70 versus 21 with Basepaws. Sorry, Gia just knocked a toy off a thing and it started chirping. It's a chirping toy. Now my teleprompter is working, of course, at the end of this video. So why not? So yeah, they have more breeds with Wisdom Panel. Basepaws may catch up to that. Basepaws is kind of known for being more in depth with the health issues. I'm not sure if I totally agree with that. I guess a little bit when you look at the report, the way it's laid out, it may be a little bit easier to go into that with Basepaws. And pricing could be a factor too. So we talked about at the beginning, I showed the websites, and then as I said, you may get deals. I'm so glad this is now working, of course. Listen close. Rub my belly. Rub my belly.